Hello everyone and welcome to today's select stream, which is all about Microsoft Viva. It's really about how we can use Microsoft Viva to engage and connect with our teams, our employees in the new hybrid world that we find ourselves in. So I'll let Nick give you a few more details about it and kind of take you through everything. But firstly, just to try and have a think about what employee engagement or employee experience is, and also employee, oh gosh, what was it, Nick?
I'd left myself on mute from the start.
Yeah.
Well, employee engagement and employee experience is the main thing, and I think just before we came live, you put it quite well. In as much as employee experience, sounds a bit redundant, but the employee experience is the experience of being an employee. It's it's the engagement from the perspective of the employee, whereas employee engagement is probably from the perspective of the business in terms of how you're how you're driving those communications and those conversations, and obviously employee engagement is an important thing to consider in any business. There's a lot of research that the more engaged, the more people feel that the business is doing something useful, that the business cares about them, that the business is investing in people. Companies that have a high level of that, of people feeling that kind of those positive sentiments, not only do they retain staff longer, for example, 94%, there is some research on this, and 94% of employees say they will stay longer at a company that is investing in training and learning, for example. Wow. So that's that's a huge number. There's the retention, and obviously staff retention and staff turnover comes at a cost. If you've got to replace people, that's a costly exercise, so that's good. Also, people with those high levels of engagement are more productive, they're more motivated. But actually, so that's a kind of like an appeal, if you will, to the sort of the old-fashioned way of thinking about management, about you should care about your people because that's good for your bottom line, and that is true. But increasingly, we're moving into a view now of you should care about your people because they are people, and it's a good thing to care about them. And as employers, we have responsibilities to look after their well-being.
Yes. And I think that's why we're kind of looking at this specific platform that Microsoft have brought out today. Because that is becoming more prevalent, and I think also we're starting to see a migration back to the office, but there's very much still this hybrid way of working, which I think will continue for quite a long time, and hence why Microsoft Viva helps to kind of bridge that gap, helps to bring people together from wherever they are, whether they're working in the office or whether they're working from home. So we've already kind of got into the deep end, but just to remind you all of who we are. So I'm Tess, I work in the marketing department, and we've obviously got our special guest here today, Nick Ellis, who's our digital transformation consultant. And I say myself, he won't admit to this, but I would say he is a Microsoft expert, especially compared to me. So he can talk to all things Microsoft, which is why we've got him here today to speak with you. Jig sadly cannot make it today. He isn't very well, so we wish Jig a speedy recovery. And yeah, we're just going to get straight into it really, because we've only got half an hour today. We've kind of already started the discussion of why employee experience, employee engagement, is so important, and now we could maybe, Nick, without further ado, kind of look a little bit more into how Microsoft Viva kind of responds to those needs of a business.
Yeah, so I think before I do, it's probably worth, because anybody in any conversation where people are saying here's a product, the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, what's it going to cost? And I think I'd just like to break it down. Roughly speaking, there's two groups to it. There's stuff that is actually already there in your Office tenant now, which is roughly the first two, connections and insights, and then there is stuff which is an addition to the topics and learning. So it's probably worth clarifying that up at the top. I will talk about each of them. Connections, insights we can do now with whatever Office license we've got. Topics and learning do come at an extra charge. Topics particularly, I know is £3.80 per user per month. So it's just worth clarifying that. So there's a mix of products here that are being grouped as Viva. This initial 4, it is exactly that. It is an initial set. So connections, insights, topics and learning, that's the initial group that Viva is made up of. They are there is a roadmap to bring in other areas as well. And the idea essentially is to make the experience of working at a company easier and less stressful and less kind of personally demanding, whilst maintaining the levels of productivity that businesses need. You know, it shouldn't be these things are often seen as in competition. Are people working, or are they thinking about their well-being? And part of the purpose of Viva is to say, actually, they're not in competition, they're complementary, and they need to work together. You don't stop working and then care about your health. You care about your health all the time you are working, in theory. So yeah. Stepping left to right. So connections is, broadly speaking, it's a way of displaying if you've got a SharePoint intranet, which a lot of our customers do, or we do, you can mount that as an app in Teams, and it becomes the homepage in Teams. So rather than kind of having that's in the browser, and here's this, and this is Teams, and they're not related. It's just a way of bringing it all together, so it's all presented through Teams. There is
kind of like if you've got an intranet site, you can then embed it completely within to Teams. So you're not, I suppose, because I think a lot of employees, they like to kind of just focus on one application, and if you have to go to like a different place to engage or find out news information about the company, you're less inclined to do it. Whereas I guess if it's all part of Teams, I can see why it would be a lot more accessible.
And it pushes it up as your homepage when you start your computer in the morning. And this is partly about what's called attention switching, which is, if you've got to, I'm looking at this, say you've got a conversation where maybe I'm talking to you, Tess, and we're having a chat in Teams. And say, oh, by the way, where are those marketing assets that we were working on? And you say, oh, well, they're saved on the intranet. But at the moment, the traditional view, okay, I've got to kind of stop that conversation. Now I've now got to go and load a browser. I've got to go find the intranet, and that's attention switching. Now we do that all the time, because we switch to our operational application, or we switch to our finance tools, or what have you. But it's just an attempt to try and reduce the amount of attention switching we do. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, because I didn't research it before I got here, but it is something like every time you switch attention between windows to go, oh, I've got to stop doing that and start doing this, you lose 3 to 4 minutes of productivity.
Yeah.
So your brain just goes, what am I doing? The human brain is not geared for this rapid boom, 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 boom. So the idea here is that the intranet, which should host most of your kind of useful tools and assets that you have in a business, mount it into Teams. And it's really, there's less of there's still some demand because you are switching between panels in there, but it's less of a brutal switch for the brain.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like already with like having Planner in there and stuff, it does help you stay focused. And
that consistent interface, so you're not having to go, oh, now I've got to deal with this company's brand. It's all fairly consistent. The Connections also uses Yammer. Now, I will say, I definitely see the use of Yammer, which is, for those that are not familiar with it, is essentially, think of it as roughly LinkedIn or Facebook for the internal community of your business. I see the value of it in larger multi-office businesses. If you're a business of 9 or 10 people all working in the same office, I think probably you don't really need an internal social network. But I have worked in companies, and Tess, I know you've worked in companies that sort of like multinationals, multi-office, and in that environment, it makes sense. It's a useful.
Yeah, especially I think international would. I mean, just thinking back to working in like international businesses, that would have been quite a helpful application, or whatever you want to call it, actually, because it just keeps the conversation flowing, and kind of outside of work stuff as well.
So I think you know, the scale of the business is a big determinant on whether the Yammer stuff is useful, but I think the intranet stuff is useful. Now I need to crack on because I'm conscious of time.
Yeah.
So insights, I'm going to try and do now, and we should confess to our audience, Jig is our experienced producer. I'm going to try and share my screen into the webinar. We'll see what happens. I think, Tess, you probably have to press a button or two.
Yes, I will do. If you share, we always have some sort of technical hit.
Yes, yeah. Have to have a technical problem. There you go. I can tell you it's going to replace what's going on, which is going to cause a slight peculiarity while I find the right screen. There we go. So
okay, that was very smooth.
That was very slick, wasn't it? And that was Teams doing that. So it just goes to show. So the insights section is quite interesting, and this is, as a remind you, part of the tool that is available now. If you want to access this, you can just in Teams go to that 3-dot menu where you find your apps, and you will find insights in there. It's already here.
So it's not called Viva.
No, the app is called Insights, but when you load it, it says Viva Insights.
Okay.
But the app
just
here,
so people know how to find it.
Yeah, just search for like that. But obviously, there you go. There it is.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, but obviously I've already got it here. Good tip when you're loading any app in Teams, but definitely this one is to right-click it and pin. Obviously I've pinned that already, but you can see.
Otherwise it disappears, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can disappear, so it's a good thing to have available. This page, I have to say, is this is kind of an overview page, and I tend to skip through this page to the Stay Connected, but I will go through, so you get a nice look in it. Nice little help. You know, you can record your feelings about the day, which is quite I don't do it, to be honest, but you know, there is a send praise feature which I do like, so you can use this to quickly find I want to send something. I can either send individually to the person, or I can send it into a team, but I can just send that to them. It's going to say, right, you're going to get that, and fine. And also it you can set up reminders to build a habit of praising each other. Look at that, something went wrong. It's because I don't already have a chat set up with.
That's our technical hitch.
Hopefully. There you go. That's the technical hitch of the day. I've got one with Adrian Atkins, so I'll you know, you get the idea. So inclusive. So I've got one with Adrian Atkins. Preview it. Send. There you go. So that's what it was, just because I didn't already have a chat. And you can set up reminders to yourself to keep on top of that. It's good. It's good for morale, and I believe in the slightly longer term they will be able to start reporting against that as well. It's not there yet, but you will be able to start reporting, so you can see when people have sent each other praise. We have a function within our business where we do something along those lines. Microsoft acquired Headspace about this year, I believe. So they now include these little bits of, if you want to just do some mindfulness exercises, get your brain focused and what have you. Now, I know that's a little American and some British people might sort of scoff at that, but actually I find it's quite useful at the end of the day. I do sometimes. I was going to
say, I think the most interesting one is the virtual commute. Because obviously if we're working from home now, not like you are today, but if we are working from home like I am, then you sort of have to go straight from your work life to your home life without that kind of transition period. So kind of, I think you can set a reminder, can't you? Or it does it itself and says,
you've skipped ahead because that's in the protect time tab.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I was just so excited about it.
And then you've got some reminders here of things that you might want to do, including it's integrated with your to-do task list and all that sort of stuff. However, the bit that I think is actually most interesting is the Stay Connected tab, which I'm going to load here. Now I'm logged in as this Richard Thompson of our dummy organisation that we use, and this loaded up in half a second just now. And there
it is.
Right. Woo! So what the Stay Connected tab does, normally a lot quicker than that, is it allows you to keep on top of commitments and requests. So it's actually reading the language in emails and Teams messages. Don't be spooked out by that. It's not reading it for any kind of, there's nothing underhand. I always say, Facebook, you get for free and therefore you are the customer. Microsoft, you pay for it. So sorry, Facebook you get for free and therefore you are not the customer. It's the advertiser that's the customer. Whereas here with Microsoft, you're paying for it. You're the customer. You're the owner of the data. It's not being processed for anything underhand. Other than what it does is it finds these language structures that look like promises or requests, and it just advises you. So it's just, so I said in an email yesterday, I'll get it to you by the end of tomorrow, and I can click on there and it will take me to Outlook.
It's just quite useful because if you're anything like me, I'm quite forgetful. I have to write everything down, so it kind of saves you having to write those things down. It kind of, if you come and I suppose just check in on there every morning. Yes, I do need to set that meeting up with so and so. Yeah,
exactly. And you see there, I clicked on the link and it's taken me to the, so it's just kind of brought me that sentence, said, well, that looks like a commitment, and then you can follow through and remind yourself what the commitment was in detail. And you can see here as well, so I've got an email where I was asked, could you please make sure it includes the Star Destroyers? Doing nothing for the reputation of IT people there, but again, and I can open that, and that's an email that I have received. So where this was an email that I sent saying I will do, this is an email that I've received from Marion saying, with a request of what she wants in there. And then also this, like, you haven't had a one-to-one this month with this person, do you want to do that? And has found a time in the diary that looks like, hey, that would be a good time to do that. And I can just click on the send invite. There's now a calendar invite. I
can't remember what the stat was, Nick, but I remember hearing something about quite a high percentage of businesses only do like a one-to-one with their line manager, sort of like not even once a month.
Yeah, well, there is. I don't remember the exact number, but it is a surprising number, and I've had some conversations with customers and others who, I should say not customers here, but where they sort of said, well, we have high engagement because we meet with our staff twice a year. Those companies do. It's not great, but actually, I would say, it's not just with your line manager, it's like peer one-to-ones, like Tess, you and I have a one-to-one every Monday afternoon, that kind of just maintaining the relationships. 60% of employees report feeling more disconnected and more at risk of burnout in the pandemic. And I think we're not going to go back to everybody in the office all the time anytime soon. It's a period of hybrid work. And this is all about maintaining that connection, maintaining that relationship. So as I say, I have one-to-ones with you, I have one-to-ones with others of my peers, and sometimes just some people, because I just think it's nice to talk to people,
Exactly.
Don't feel too focused. The other thing I want to say about here is that it is reading from Teams as well. So this is a group chat, and again I can click on that and it will take me to the appropriate chat so that I can review it. And then all of these just like that. Again, all of these here are, you can see, you can open, you can mark them as tasks, and you can say, actually, you know what, I've done that one, don't need to worry about that now, and it will take it away like that. Yeah, so I find this a really useful tool. All you've got to do is 3 dots, search for insights. The other part is protect time. So this is now looking at time that I've got available in my calendar, where I can just go, yes, book me 2 hours tomorrow, book me another 2 hours on Monday, and actually to try and stop people booking your calendar. The emphasis there is on the word try. Not everybody looks at your availability when they're booking meetings, in my experience, but if you can try and sort of encourage people to say, no, I'm preserved. And what that does, it does a few things. So it puts the time in your calendar, but it will also during that time mark you as do not disturb on Teams. So what that means that if people send you messages, that you won't get the notifications, and even if people ring you, I think it will ring if you've got Teams on your phone, but it won't ring if on your, you know, it will keep you focused and anything. It will keep you focused.
Just conscious of time because we do have a couple of questions, but
okay, let me just very quickly do the virtual commute.
We'll wait and do the questions right at the end.
Yeah. So the virtual commute is kind of what it sounds like. So kind of a you know, tasks that you want to just carry over to the next day. You can just very quickly tap those in. They go into your to-do list. And then there's a reminder of what your next meeting is going to be, which is actually my focus time, which I just booked. And then there's a quick sort of, you know, how's life? Well, I'm on a webinar with Tess, so it's awesome.
Thanks, Nick.
So that's that part. Now, can we go back to your slide?
We can.
That's the only part that I can live demo. So if we go back to your slide, that would be great.
Yeah. Let me see what I can do. So I've got to make sure I get the right.
I'll start talking while you're doing that. So the learning tool, again, I remind you, 94% of people will stay longer in companies that invest in learning.
I did it.
That's well done. So the tool there is about connecting to LinkedIn Learning, Microsoft Learning, but also other tools like Cornerstone and Coursera and plural sites. So if you've got learning platforms that you use, and you can bring it all together, and then managers can say, here, go do this course, you do that course. Obviously, this is a virtual course, this is online stuff that we're talking about. But you know, so here, can you go and do this course on, I don't know, Power BI or whatever it is, you know, or managing people or preparing budgets, whatever course you want to assign people to. But also people can share them sideways, if you will, just share them with like, so I could say, hey, Tess, I've been doing this course. I reckon you'd find it really interesting, and share it. And obviously it tracks and records who's done what and what achievements people have got. So it's a nice way of sharing, managing, and making sure that people are getting the training that they need, but also making available training maybe that you might not think of. So it makes it easier for individuals to fulfill their own training needs. So rather than say, you know, my boss Simon might say, hey, I want you to go and do this budget management course, and I'd go, oh, that sounds deathly dull, but okay, I'll just do that. But then I might also go, do you know what, I really want to understand more about Visual Studio, and I can go and find myself a training course about that and what have you. So it can be self-led as well as assigned. That's the learning one. I've skipped over topics, not intentionally, because I thought they were the other way around. So topics is a way of flagging and managing information in the business. So certainly in large corporations, and again, I think this is less true in smaller businesses, but it's still a problem. In large corporations, research suggests that the average knowledge worker, which we all are these days, spends 7 productive weeks out of every year trying to find or recreating knowledge and assets that already exist in the business.
That's so depressing.
Horrific. It's approaching 20% of your time you spend just looking for stuff, that one day a week doing nothing but looking for stuff that already exists and then giving up and making it yourself. So topics is about curating. So it's a mixture of, as I say, curated, where we can say, here is a topic which is this customer. And then we start saying, well, this file is related to that customer and this file is that related to that customer. And also you can put together header pages, front page websites that are kind of, this is everything you need to know about this customer. But it might be, maybe you'd have a topic that was sales or marketing, or maybe you'd have a topic which is widget A and another topic that is widget B, and so on. You can structure those topics any way you want. And on top of the curated part, the AI engines in Office 365 and Teams will actually start going through SharePoint, going through OneDrive. It will only ever share you files that you've got permission to, so don't worry that it's going to, if you do one for budgets and then you've accidentally exposing the salary review budget, it's not going to do that kind of thing, because it will only share things that people have access to. But it will start bringing that together, and then even into Teams chats and all that as well. So it will start saying, well, this customer is called, I don't know, John Lewis. And actually over here in this chat, we were having a chat about John Lewis. I'm going to bring that into the page, make it really easy to find. So you can basically go to topics and go, just tell me everything about John Lewis, and it'll,
It's just quite intuitive.
It's very intuitive, it's very easy to navigate, and the idea is that it surfaces up the information that you need at the time that you need it, right, to reduce, get that 7 weeks a year searching for information. If we can compress that down a bit, or a lot, then that's time that we can spend being productive on other things. So that is what the Topic 6 does, and I'm aware that it's 29 minutes past.
Oh, you did very well. Well done, Nick.
So you had some questions.
Yeah, well, I don't know if there's a kind of more statements, I suppose, really, or some like reflections on some of the, particularly the productivity and well-being bit, I suppose, and just kind of a feeling of, so it's kind of like with the praise badges, is it like getting a badge from the teacher at primary school? Like, is it kind of taking it a bit too far? But I suppose it depends on the company, doesn't it, really?
It does depend on the company.
Their culture.
I would like to talk about, so we have, and because Viva is quite new, and we've been doing this for some years, we use it on a different system, but I suspect we will be adopting Viva for it very soon. We do this, so if I'm particularly impressed with something, it's not from the teacher necessarily, because it's a peer. It's from
it's like from another pupil.
Yeah, that's right. It's more getting praise from other people. And we have, I mean, if somebody on the service desk, if I did a favour for somebody on the service desk, they could send that to me. If one of my team, they could send it upwards, they could send downwards, they could send sideways. So it's not necessarily, I mean, and actually, is it a bit of a pat on the back from the teacher? Well, sometimes it is. You get one from your own boss. Sometimes it is like that. But actually, do you know what? I don't necessarily think that getting a bit of recognition from your boss is a bad thing. I wouldn't discourage that at all. And then as you get into the reporting, the reason I mentioned the reporting is because we actually pull those reports, and our directors see all of it. So if I were to test and use some praise today, I know that in 2 weeks' time, our 3 directors are going to know that has happened, and they're going to be able to see why that's happened. So, or the setting.
It tells the management. I know this isn't in Viva, but I suppose that kind of tells the management. These relationships are obviously quite healthy, good,
productive, and
working well together. Whereas if nothing's being sent, does that kind of signify a problem? Yeah. But I agree that it needs to be embedded into the culture, really. I don't think it's just the sort of thing that people just start randomly doing. So It depends on the company. And then the other query was just, and I don't know if maybe you could actually change this within the, this kind of prompts for like staying connected. So like arranging a meeting or something like that, rather than it being kind of like this chat box, could you make it so that, you know, it's like pick up the phone to speak to someone? Or, but then I suppose if it's saying to start to set up a meeting,
yeah,
just a worry that it could leave people feeling kind of even more isolated if they don't have that sort of human contact.
Well, I understand that. I mean, there's a limit to what AI can do in terms of what am I trying to say? I think that there comes a point where it becomes a human decision to say, actually, you know what, I think I should probably talk to them. I think there is a human element. I don't think we should, and I'm not suggesting that this is what the question meant, but I don't think we should sort of outsource all of our relationship management to insights. But I think it's a useful tool to just remind you. And as you said, you know, sometimes you just, I said I was going to do that, didn't I? And I forgot.
Yeah, I think it's more about that than actually saying, you know, make sure you talk to this person. I think that kind of should be more embedded within the culture of the company. I mean, I think it's a nice way to end by sort of saying that Viva doesn't replace your other forms of employee engagement and connection. No. It's just to kind of help facilitate it, would be my take. But it is 33 minutes past 1, so we are at the end of time. Well, hopefully not the end of time.
Wow.
The end of the time that we have today. So I'll just quickly skip through these to say, you know, thank you so much for watching.